All right. I want to talk about Peter Dale Scott. This is a thank you to Professor Peter Dale Scott. And I was chit-chatting with my neighbor, a friend, new friend, who he mentioned the phrase deep state. And as soon as he said deep state, he said, "Well, you've heard of the deep state, haven't you?" And I said, "Oh yeah. Well, I've corresponded with Peter Dale Scott, who coined the phrase deep state." And it's almost bizarre, because when I corresponded with Peter Dale Scott, that was in about 2001 or maybe 2002, but it was literally at least 20 years ago. And I didn't get a chance to tell the person, why I corresponded with Peter Dale Scott. And he didn't know who Peter Dale Scott was, so he wasn't interested in that part of the story. But just the idea that this term, the deep state, has come full circle now, where it's become a common phrase for the everyday person, so to speak. And so I found a talk by Peter Dale Scott that was actually, I guess it's a couple years old now. It was right before Biden got elected in November of 2020. It's kind of, even like Peter Dale Scott, he makes the comment, well, Biden, he might win the election, but he may still lose the presidency. And Peter Dale Scott's his claim was that Trump continued the emergency declaration or something like that of continuity of government. And the continuity of government is what Dick Cheney first activated right after 9/11, and then Dick Cheney went to live underground. And both the continuity government had been basically created. It was planned out by Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld. And so then, of course, after 9/11, that became the invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan, and I had, of course, written a paper in 1998 based on Noam Chomsky, and I had predicted the U.S. would invade Iraq again, and that the U.S.-led sanctions were genocidal. Of course, now the conditions that the sanctions created are back again in Afghanistan, which meaning famine. And based on abrupt global warming, the famine is spread. So there's like at least 12 million people in critical hunger in Africa, but it's probably much higher than that. The UN was estimating 30 million people, but that's why that was if the Ukraine grain wasn't released. So now that the Ukraine grain is getting shipped out, hopefully that'll help out enough to help the starving millions. And so Peter Dale Scott, he was claiming, well, Trump said he had special powers. When he used that phrase, special powers, that what he meant was the continuity of government says you can just override the Constitution and declare that you're shutting down the government essentially. And of course now we know the recent I think it was yesterday where they found out that it was on I think Lee Camp, or no, it was the Noah Trevor, whatever his name is, from South Africa, and that Trump was complaining his generals weren't as loyal as the German generals during World War II. And now we know that, or Ivana, the first wife, she said that Trump would read Hitler's speeches as his bedtime reading. He had a book of Hitler's speeches for next to his bed. And of course, Roy Cohn was the reason Roy Cohn helped out Trump originally was because Trump was being sued by the federal government for discrimination, for racism against African Americans in his housing. And so the Peter Dale Scott, he was talking about, he made the astute point that with the Reagan Revolution in 1980, the Barry Goldwater John Birch Society took over the Republican Party, and the Lawrence Rockefeller liberal Republican wing was basically pushed aside. And then of course, then the Koch brothers funded the Tea Party. And Peter Dale Scott, he claims the Koch brothers are the largest private corporation in the world. But I think it's still Cargill, because Cargill controls the food supply, with the U.S. government. So nobody knows about Cargill. But Peter Dale Scott, he got his PhD in political science, but then he became an English professor, and he told the story of how that happened. And he lived in Thailand for quite a while. And so one of the I wanted to connect this back to the he talks about the secret society. He mentions this group called the Lost Circle in France. And he tells this fascinating story that he said I don't think he ever shared this before. That's what he said, was that he got invited to this like right-wing party gathering in I think it was San Francisco. But it was part of the Rockefeller meeting, apparently, where, but they were saying, we need to get rid of JFK. What are we going to do about JFK? And at this meeting, there was this Orthodox Jesuit priest. And by Orthodox meaning he was Jesuit, but he was also Eastern Orthodox. And he said that the old man will take care of it. And don't worry about it. The old man will take care of it. And I don't know. Is Peter Dale Scott, he never said who the old man was. The Jesuit. Is that the Pope? I suppose he's referring to the Pope. I don't know. But, or maybe he meant God. I don't know. This is just the old man. But, the Peter Dale Scott and Chomsky, they had a big debate about the meaning of the JFK assassination. Because Chomsky's argument was that, conspiracies are basically squabbles among the elite, and that JFK was a Cold War person. That's why he got elected president eventually, or senator, because he was promoting the military industrial complex and all that. And the fact that he got assassinated was just sort of like part of the whole structural dynamic. So for the military industrial complex to keep going. Whereas Peter Dale Scott, his emphasis was that, well, JFK would have made a difference. He would have prevented the Vietnam War, and everybody's heard that story. And so one story I was telling my friend was about Al Gore and how I had confronted Al Gore when he was vice president and he was running for president. And I told him the whole story, and I'm not sure he believed me, because he's like, well, okay. He's like, who was the mayor at that time? And like, he was testing me, and I just immediately said, well, Sales Belton, because she was African American lady, the mayor, and I was telling the story how I got pulled over by the cop the police officer pulled me over on the way home after I chewed out Al Gore for a half an hour, and his Secret Service were there, and they said, come on, Al, let's go. And he got into his helicopter and he flew off, and then I drove back to my girlfriend's place, and right before I got to her place, I get pulled over, and the cop never said why he pulled me over. I just made a promise to myself, I'm not going to ask him, why he pulled me over. He just took my driver's license, and went back to his car, and then he came back and he said thanks, and I pointed out to my friend, I said, well, he was African American, an African American police officer, and the mayor was at the event. She's African American. I don't know if that's, I just said, it was pretty obvious that he knew that I knew why he pulled me over, to record just to make sure, because the mayor was not happy when we crashed because she basically hosted the vice president, for the Democratic Party. At any rate, the Peter Dale Scott, when I emailed him, he told me I should be careful, because I was talking to him about the Nazi connection to the assassination of JFK, because the CIA with Operation Paperclip, they brought over at least 1,200 Nazis they brought over 1,200 Nazis to the U.S., and that was Nixon's job, was to process the Nazis. And there was a lot more Nazis. Many more Nazis went to South America, Argentina and Bolivia, and in Chile, and then they trained. That became Operation Condor, where they trained the Salvadoran military in torture techniques. So you see this basically, I mean, it goes back to Wilhelm Reich about the what he identified in the 1930s, that the vagus nerve was connected to serotonin and lecithin levels in the body. And so his whole critique of fascism was that it's essentially a physiological mind control problem of civilization. So there's a lack of the vagus nerve, and you get this escalation of dopamine violence along with cortisol stress. So this gets to what I wanted to talk about with in regards to meditation and the deep state and the secret societies and the pineal gland, the third eye. And I was listening to Chun-Yu Lin, one of his mass marketed videos that I hadn't seen, and he talks about how if you meditate, you keep meditating, you will develop supernatural powers and the sixth sense, and you open up the third eye and but of course the problem is that that's all the spiritual ego. And he points out, you can overuse your psychic energy. And what really does the healing is this emptiness, what you could call it the cosmic mother. The formless awareness, as it's called in Advaita Vedanta. Or in Qigong, they just say it's very wonderful, the wonderful miracles, essentially, or exceptional human functions. And so, what I realized is that in the past couple times I've hung out with people, the past several times I've hung out with people, I'm supposed to be flexing the lower magpie bridge, which is the perineum, and you do that by flexing the sphincter. It's a strange thing to need to do. You have to do, because you store up the qi, the wan qi, in the small intestine, which is the second brain of the body. So this practice is very much a full body practice, and if you don't do that, then you lose your energy out of your eyes. It goes into the people around you. And that's the yin qi, the psychic energy. And what I realize is that the reason I haven't been storing up my energy is because I like to read the frequency of other people's energy. I like to read where their spirit is hardwired in their body. I like to read what is the character. What is the true character of another person based on their intention, what their EYI intention is, the wan qi. So the wan qi is this basically the magnetic moment in the body of the between the protons and the electrons, what's called the spin coupling. And that's what stores up your soul. It's like the frequency of your soul, holographically in the body. And of course, the the emptiness itself is beyond any one frequency, so it's the non-commutativity that's non-local. So when we turn the frequency around holographically and we experience someone else's frequency of their soul, their spirit in their body, but now it's experienced internally in your own body, holographically. That moment is based on the Wan Qi itself, and the Wan Qi is directly non-local. It's that moment of connection of the emptiness through the ether. So if in alchemy you're supposed to just store up that ether energy, and in the ether energy it creates a space-time bubble that you can store it up in your body and then release it. You can change space-time around you, and you can do that through the non-locality. And this is the power of meditation. And what we've done as modern humans is we've turned that around to the power of technology. And so we've reversed it by lowering our spirit frequency through left brain dominance. And then, so I talk about this in my 2012 book, The Alchemy of Rainbow Heart Music. And that one does get into the conspiracy politics a bit more. I mean, more than any of my other books or writing. And I wrote that for Chris Milligan, who's the publisher of Trine Day. And he recently responded to me that he's still interested in publishing. I suggested him to publish my latest book, the Strange Vibrations book, which is a compilation of my previously published articles. So he said that, he may do that. That's what he said. He may do it after he finishes this next book he's working on, which is the book by Whitney Webb, I think is her name. He interviewed her in his podcast series on the Trine Day. And so Chen Yilin, he told me he does not get involved in politics. And this is because he learned, when I asked him about Zhang Hongbao, he was the leader of Zhang Qigong, or Zhong, which is an alchemical term for it's where the Wan Qi manifests from the lower dantian. So it's behind the navel. It's the point in the body, directly behind the navel. When your Wan Qi is activated, the lower dantian has to be full. The Yin Qi has to be filled up first in order to activate the Wan Qi. And that's what takes you from the psychic level into the spiritual level. And so there's a big difference between the spiritual level and the psychic level. and that the spiritual level is what's called nirvikalpa samadhi in the Vedic yoga tradition, and in Taoism it's just called the emptiness, and that's what opens up the heart, the deep right side vagus nerve to the heart. So my point is that when I talked to Peter Dale Scott in 2001, it might have even been 2000. I might have talked to him in 2000. I think it was before my enlightenment experience. It definitely was before my enlightenment experience. So I talked to him in 2000. And after that email, I can't remember. Anyway, after 9/11 happened, then I knew it was all over for normal politics. And that's when I decided to spread revolution through psychic energy. And this is what I called etherealize pranarchy. And I made a pamphlet, and I made copies, free. This is what I used to do. I would pass out free pamphlets. And basically, I even gave a copy to Qigong Grandmaster Chen Yulin. And, he's talked about the Qigong revolution. So he believes in, this is what Yan Qin used to use the phrase, Qigong revolution. So my point is that there's the term, I called it the natural resonance revolution. That was my phrase for it, the natural resonance revolution. And the whole point of it is it has to be what Yan Qin called wondrous. It has to be based on wonder as a miracle. So it's unpredictable. And, sure enough, we did have the uprising in Minneapolis. And that uprising did inspire the largest protest movement in U.S. history, which was the Black Lives Matter protest movement. And that inspired protests around the world. And of course, in the context of abrupt global warming, it seems almost pointless in comparison. And so, abrupt global warming. This is Peter Dale Scott. I think he just called it climate change, but he might have said global warming. But he recognized that we need a global revolution in order to address global warming. But if we look at the science, then it shows that we're too far gone, that our whole project of external use of tools through left brain dominance with language and written language as a linear time, sense of linear time in space-time. It's quickly reaching its end, and it was a kind of a psychotic episode of life on Earth. What we call, as Gandhi said, Western civilization would, it'd be a good idea, which is sort of the joke that it never existed in the first place. And so this video is kind of a confession for me that all we can do is rely on the emptiness. All that remains is the emptiness, and we cannot see it. It's the formless awareness of the Mother Earth is part of the cosmic mother. So in order to save Mother Earth, we have to embrace the cosmic mother and be part of the emptiness of the cosmic mother. And well, this new camera really lets me make a long video. But what I've found in my experience is, with left brain dominance, people have the frequency of their spirit is still stuck in their lower body at a low frequency level. I'm talking about males, other males. And females can activate their kundalini much easier, and open up their heart easier if they are helped along with the male if the male does his job with the spiritual healing, then the female can raise the frequency of her spirit internally to activate the heart, the Wan Qi emptiness. And so the females then become the leaders. They're supposed to be the leaders of humanity, based on the lunar energy that controls life on Earth. So that's the psychic energy. So it's kind of like a balancing act where your psychic energy is constantly activating the emptiness energy of the cosmic mother through meditation. So like if you look at Trinity Lin students, they're mostly females. They're probably about, I would guess, 80% females. And it's, so in a way, he is leading a female Qigong revolution. And I just think it's a beautiful thing. I remember I had a coworker who, when I mentioned Qigong, he said how his wife was way into Qigong, and he told me who she was, and I immediately knew who she was. I said, oh yeah, I've seen her at the classes and whatever, the meetings. And he was like confused and disturbed, that she was obsessed with Qigong, and he didn't understand why. And what Chuni said one time, he did a healing on this lady, and she used the water to charge up the energy, store the energy. And Chinny said, yeah, just keep drinking that water, until the next healing. And she kept the water in her fridge. And then the husband freaked out and wouldn't let her drink the water. Like, I don't know if he just poured it out or whatever. She was fine as long as she kept drinking that water, but he stopped her from drinking it, and so she didn't survive because I think she must have had like late term cancer or something. And so it's kind of it's a subtle, to people will, it's essentially doing a space-time exorcism. You're literally doing a space-time exorcism when you practice with the wand chi, the emptiness. And so people will freak out sometimes around you. This is what Wilhelm Reich called negative transference in psychology. So it's basically like a reaction of people around you, where you become the scapegoat, essentially. And it's what Ramana Maharshi they claimed that he was taking on the negative karma. He was soaking up the negative karma of his students, and that's why he got physically sick. So the Qigong master, the whole point of the Qigong as alchemy is to be able to heal yourself after you've healed others. And you have to keep that process of healing yourself after you heal others. And there's a slight delay in that process. So Yan Shin, he warned one of his friends. One of his friends was staying with him, and he warned his friend that his friend would get sick because his friend was picking up the negative, the lower frequency blockages that Yan Chin was healing people of. And this is what I've been experiencing a bit also. The Qigong masters are very, very sensitive to what people are thinking around them. So if people are having intention from a low frequency of spirit, then the Qigong master will automatically react to that to clear out the blockage. And this can include anger. The Master Nanhua Chin, he said that there's no point in meditating in our modern world because it causes too much anger, too much righteous anger. And this is the liver. The yin chi that's essentially the liver energy when your eyes are open. When your eyes are closed, it goes back to the heart. Like when you're dreaming, it comes out of the heart. And that's the alchemy, is to combine the yin chi that's from the heart, and then to bring it down, to combine it with the yang chi that's hidden in the lower body from the life force, reproductive energy. So it's an ancient science, and the person who can successfully master it in modern times has to be very strong on multiple levels. And so it's important that people support the Qigong masters, because they need support physically as much as, they need like economic support also, because they're basically just on their own. They're trying to teach and spread this energy to others. It's the Qigong revolution. And that, I suppose you could say the same in yoga. I'm not, I'm sure there's some yoga teachers that are the real deal. But China has a different history than India in terms of westernization. Slightly different because they avoided the British colonialism a lot more than India. So I've talked for way too long, and it's probably not even going to be synchronized, the sound. So the whole point was just to thank Peter Dale Scott for he personally helped me out. He warned me. He said, if I were you, I would be careful. And that was a life-changing response that I took to heart. I changed my focus away from political activism, and I shifted it to doing more research, learning, reading science books and meditating, and then doing energy healing on a psychic level. And I've had a lot of experiences from the psychic healing. So I'll just leave it at that, and thanks for your time.